Hey everybody, I'm Yvonne Williams with Back to Earth Creations, and in this video I want to show you the complete process from start to finish of how I'm going to make this bracelet. This is easily one of like a million different ways that a person can go about making a bracelet, but it's one of them, and it's a starting point too. So if you haven't worked on very many leather projects before, and you just want something that you can kind of follow along with, this is definitely going to be the video for you, hopefully. Also, if you just want to kind of get some ideas that you can then deviate and branch off of from, this is also hopefully the video for you. So what we're starting with here is some very nice vegetable tooled cowhide. This was a shoulder, and so just so you know where it's coming from, because the leather from the shoulders and like of a cow will behave differently than like the belly. But you could make a bracelet out of whatever you like. This is about 4 millimeters thick. And the custom piece that I'm making for the client, who's actually a very good friend of ours, who we don't get to see as much as we like. So this is a really special project for me. Wants a 2-inch by 9-inch bracelet. Like his wrist is 9 inches. So this is going to be lots of space to get to work on. So you see I have my ruler here and I have a little stylus. And I'm actually just going to line up kind of like that. And I'm going to give myself a solid foot of working space because I'm going to be putting a buckle on this. And this will give me a little bit of, a little bit extra to work with. So I'm just kind of marking off. And now I want to measure 2 inches. I'm lining this long edge of the square up. There's our 2-inch mark. Lining the edge of my square up with the line that I had made. There's our 2-inch mark. And now I'm going to connect these ends. This is going to be a really wicked bracelet. Like, I'm excited. The friend in particular, I don't know if he wants his name named or not, but for those of y'all who know him, you know he's awesome. He does the best Santa, and I hate to call it cosplay, because he is like the most Santa person I've ever met in my entire life. But he does dress up as like North from the Rise of the Guardians movie and stuff. I mean, he's so hardcore, you guys. Like hardcore Santa all the way. So I'm hoping that this will go well with his get up. So I'm just coming through with my leather shears. You could use a box knife, but for the surface that I'm working on right now, this is just a little easier. Snip through. I'm just going to come around. But yeah, that's why I started talking about it. For the bracelet, the theme he gave me was Nordic snowflakes, like something that would kind of go with his Santa getup. So with that in mind, I have Googled Nordic snowflakes to kind of get some different ideas. In just a moment to concentrate so I don't mess up. I don't know if y'all can see the little Sam dog back there. Just hanging out, being a dog. So I got this cut. Now for my buckle, we can measure again what's going on here. This is a 1/2-inch buckle. So I want to make sure that the straps and things that I cut will fit through this. So I'm going to set my scissors aside real quick. And I'm going to come over here. And so there's a 1/2-inch, there's a 1/2-inch, quarter. Okay. So right here you can see I've kind of marked out what the width, so from this point to this point, is what I need for going through this guy. And this was 12 inches long and I needed 9, so I've got 3 inches of leeway. I feel like I can give myself an inch over here of leather to work with. And again, I'm completely making this up as I go, you guys, so if I'm doing something that you're like, meh, I don't really think I want to do that, then don't do it on yours. This is just, again, just ideas. And then I'm drawing out kind of a nice rounded shoulder. Could probably be using something as a template, or something round I could use as a template. Here's a bottle. There we go. And so now here on the other end, I'm going to measure off and this will actually get to be 2 inches long. There we go. Gonna use this water bottle for a template again. Down. There we are. Okay. So now I'm going to come through again with my scissors. And I'm just snipping. I'm actually going to angle this down for you so you can see a little bit better maybe what I'm doing. Different angles. Doing my best to stay along my template lines, but I don't want to overshoot it. There we go. Now, I go ahead and get the shape cut out before I do any kind of tooling or decorating or anything like that, because this could be easily salvaged into something else right now still. So I'm going to get the bones of the piece done before adding the ornamentation. That way, if this doesn't work out, at least I didn't spend all that time and effort getting it to be like so perfect, just to be like, oh no, it doesn't work. Okay, so that does fit. That's excellent. So now what I'm going to do, this is quite thick, so there is a tool called a Skimmer Sciver. It shaves down the thickness of the leather, and I'm going to save these little pieces for testing out dyes and stuff on. I'm going to flip it down to where it's nice smooth tooling side down, flesh side up, and I'm going to come through here and just kind of shave it down. And you want to try your best to take off just a little at a time, because you can always shave off more, but you cannot go back and be like, oh no, you know. So again, this is a spot where it's pretty critical to try to not mess up too bad, but if you do, we could always figure something out. Like you could have just, I could have just rounded this down and then taken a little tab of leather, you know, of a thinner leather, of course, thread it through the buckle, and then like rivet it down onto the, you know, like that. That's an option. I'm going to shave it down just a little bit more, I think. And if you don't feel very confident in your abilities, start with a piece of scrap leather. Okay, still gonna shave down just a bit more, a little deeper here on the piece. There we go. And all these scrap, like, frassy pieces can just go right over into my potted plant. But yeah, so there you can see it'll let it fold over and be riveted. So I've got a little cutting surface. And let's see what else we have. Oops. Sorry, y'all know me. I live in a constant state of disaster. So this is it's a tool that cuts out the slot for the tongue of a buckle. And I'm going to line it up just right there. I'm going to whack the crap out of it. There we go. Now, given a preference, I got this one in a kit with a bunch of others. The end here comes off so the little pieces come out. Again, those can go over into a potted plant. I very much prefer this style where the hole punches just come out of this spot here because it, I don't know, I just feel like it's a little bit more solid, but you know, you work with what you've got. But now you can totally see, you'll just slide the buckle on, put the tongue through that hole, and then feed that down and through. And you want to make sure that, you know, it'll actually go down all the way. It looks like I'm going to need a bigger little tongue hole for my belt. So something else that you can do if you don't have that tool, oh good golly, get out of there. Is you can just take a hole punch and you could punch a hole at each end. Like I'd punch a hole here and a hole there, and then come through with like a chisel or a swivel knife or a craft knife or a box knife, and just kind of cut along the length between the two holes, and that accomplishes the same thing. So you can see I'm just threading it kind of back through. Bringing it around. Yeah, I still feel like this is just a little tight up onto our piece. And so this is why I do these tutorials showing y'all even how I mess up, because sometimes I don't always plan ahead very well. So I'm actually going to shave back just a little bit more. Probably about ½ an inch more from where we were. And I think this will solve my problem of not really having enough space for the buckle. There we go. So now let's see if we can slide the buckle on. That is much better. It's still, I mean, it is pretty stiff. But I think that'll be okay. Let me see if we can't just widen this up a little bit. Because I know that if it were me, even just a little stiff would just drive me crazy. Okay, so we're going to line our punch up. This is the next size up. And whack the crap out of it. There we go. That'll be a nice, generous... So much of this is faking it till you make it, y'all. Together we will work it out. we'll figure this out. Yeah, that's, oh my gosh, so much better. A little bit more movement, everything. So now we're going to want to be able to keep that secure, and I am a big fan of rivets. So I'm actually going to punch just a little hole right there, and right there for the rivets. And then I have this little tool here, or you could just use scissors, but I'm going to come through and line it up, and you can see it's going to trim off those ends. There we go. And I'm going to come around and do that same thing to this end. Keep it nice and centered up. Hammer it through. See how it gives it a little finished point there? Put my tools away. And now I'm going to be, the punch that I was using was a, oh, it looks like 1/8 inch. So I'm going to move up to using a 5/32 inch punch. We also have our wing divider, and I want a couple of holes just 1/2 inch apart. So I'm setting my wing divider to 1/2 inch, and I'm going to start here at the tip, and there's 1, 2, and 3. Line up and punch the holes. Now I'm going to do a much smaller hole here on the tip because I know I'm not going to, for the client, he does, like, that's going to be way too long. So I'm going to put a little decorative rivet there. That way it'll bend around and kind of just like sit and be pretty. Okay, I'm going to set this off to the side. And now I'm going to use an edge beveler. You can see the way that it is on the tip. And I'm going to come through and you can see how it removes that corner from the leather. You can see here, it's very slight, but it gives it a nice starting to round off the side there. And I'm going to come in through the sides. The screaming is just my neighbor's children. They'll be fine. Getting the sides of where our buckle will be buckling onto. There we go. And I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing to the back side. There we are. Okay. So there we have basically the bones of our bracelet. So to test it, I'm gonna thread or buckle on. And the holes line up really well and still give the buckle a little bit of movement. And then this will just feed through right there. And feed back through. And that'll be a quite large bracelet actually. Let's see if what that measures down to. I mean, he's got like some beefy, like Popeye style forearms. This guy's like ripped. So that takes us to a 9-inch wrist. So whenever the client gives you measurements, don't double guess them. Just because it looks like, I mean, me with my 7-inch wrist, you know. And also the more it relaxes, I think the more natural it'll look on him as well. So I have on a scrap piece of leather over here some samples that I did. And this one was made like with just some tools, but it looked more floral. That was a little bit snowflakey, but it wasn't exactly like how I was going for. This one I thought was like perfect. So I'm going to test out a couple more Nordic style snowflakes on this piece of scrap. Hey Randy, could I get you to do me a huge favor?
Are you talking to me?
Mm-hmm. Could I get you to do me a huge favor? Could you bring me like a Tupperware of water?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so here you can see I'm just kind of surface spraying for the casing. I'm actually, Randy's going and getting me some water that I'm actually going to show you guys how to properly case this leather here for his bracelet, because I really want the tooling to take just a beautiful, beautiful finish. Okay, so I'm looking at my reference image and I've got a cedar here, and I'm going to try just popping it there like that. And I'm just going to show you guys a couple of quick different ways that I think might be cool to make snowflakes. So coming down, coming down. Now something that I've found that's like almost unanimous between the different Nordic snowflakes, thank you Randy, that's perfect, is they're 6-petaled. In all of the designs. So now here you can see we have a Tupperware of water and we have our piece of leather, and I'm going to take our leather and hold it under until the bubbles stop. I don't know if you can see those bubbles that are kind of rising up out of the leather as it's being cased. That's the air escaping and being replaced by water. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull this out, and you can see it's still kind of bubbling from where the air is fizzing out. I'm going to kind of dip it back in. Some folks would take this, let it kind of drip off a little bit, wrap it in a plastic bag, and put it in the fridge overnight. I'm just going to let it return back to its I want to get the water off of it. You know it's well cased whenever you put water on it and it stops soaking it in. Like this one's pretty good. So I'm going to set that aside now. I'm going to use this water to water my house with. I don't recommend using water that you've cased leather in for on vegetables and things, but for on just regular houseplants, I have not found any adverse effects. So, like no discoloring, no lack of growth, no anything like that. So now, while that's kind of returning back to its original color and drying out just a little bit more, I'm going to come in here and cut a few more for our test snowflakes. So the one that I kind of decided was my favorite was using 3 different sizes of mule foots, starting with the smallest, just kind of lining it up on the cut that we've made. And then going the next size up. don't hesitate to rotate your piece to make it a little easier for you. It's like there's no reason why this should be harder than it has to be. Up to the largest size of mule foot, just giving it just a little bit of space in between each one. And this is the one that I found that I liked the most. It reminded me of fir needles a bit, like the evergreen tree that a lot of people use as Christmas trees. Ooh, watch when you pinch yourself. And then you can actually come back through with a mule foot and have one come this way and one come that way. Oh, I didn't line up as perfect as I would have wanted. But that's why we do practice ones. And I feel like this one, adding in these little side flourishes, really distracts from the overall piece. Like, a lot. But, I mean, it's still pretty. So it's, I want to try one. And I'm just kind of eyeballing it. I've never really been able to find a good way of doing a 3-pointed or 6-pointed star. You know, just freehand. So you could get a template from online too, though, I'm sure. I think I'm going to do it without the circle in the center. Ooh, that's cool. I like that. So this one I've gone through and alternated a bit. I'm actually just gonna cut this off. That's driving me crazy. Okay. Now I won't have all that cumbersome extra leather. So that looks pretty neat. Okay. So I have my pattern that I'd like to do. And what I'm going to do now is put a few more of my tools away. Double check my cameras, make sure everybody's doing good. Okay, so from here, you can literally do whatever you want decoratively on the surface of the leather. I'm bringing my edging in to about, oh, let's see, 1/4 of an inch? Yeah, hair over 1/4. Excuse me. And I'm going to use this wing divider to differentiate an edge. Bless you.
Thank you.
And I'm going to use this stylus tool to kind of draw out the snowflakes. Don't hesitate to use a ruler or, you know, what have you. So we got, yeah, roughly 7 inches of design space, maybe 8. Yeah, 8 inches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm just kind of establishing where the center of some of the snowflakes are going to be. And I think I'm going to have them at every 1.5 inches, because that will give us 5 snowflakes. Very good. Okay, and now I'm going to have this one be just right there like that. And I'm drawing real lightly on them too. And then this one I'm going to have be long ways. Check that out. And then this one will go this way again. I could be using a ruler to make sure that these arms of the snowflakes are the same length, but I'm basically a messy monster, so Swamp Troll powers activate. So there we go. That's, I mean, again, really rough bones of the piece. Just get some water. And so now, I'm also, pro tip, if you're not 100% certain on your design, practice some more on your scrap leather, but I am also going to start my first piece, like my first snowflake, just over here on the edge, on the side, to be the most perfect. Like that's the showcase area of the bracelet, I feel like. Okay. I'm gonna put my tip back on that. Just 1, 2, and 3. One, 2, 3. Next size up. Oh my gosh, I'm totally in love with this, you guys. 1, 2, 3. And the biggest one. Big, beautiful snowflakes. There we are. I think that looks pretty darn snowflakey. So, next snowflake. Just making our cuts nice and deep. Okay, so now I think I'm going to do one that has parts of my pinky flesh lodged into it. No, this one's going to have big on the second instead of medium. Because I think I like the way that looks too. Okay, now the gentleman that this bracelet is for is a huge inspiration to me. He is so generous and so caring to everybody that comes through his life, even if it's just for brief moments, that I feel really fortunate to have met him. So, I mean, his kindness is contagious, and I deeply feel makes the world a brighter and more beautiful place. So, Stephen, if you're watching this, I'm honored to get to make this piece for you. Look at that snowflake! That's a snowflake of gratitude right there. Oh, I really like that one too. Ah. So I'm going to go and do the one on this side again. Sorry, Randy's actually playing a Dragon Ball Z game. Xenoverse, I think is the name of it. And so I can kind of hear the music. And Dragon Ball is life, so it's stuck in my head now. And I'm going to go ahead and cut the lines for this one as well. There we go. I mean, I'm sure that if I searched, there would have been a 3D Snowflake Stamp, and what I mean by 3D stamp is like stuff like this one here. Now, it's just a little stamp that you put a handle into, and then you put it on the leather, and if you have a press for it, love to have one of those presses, or you just hammer the crap out of it, and it imprints on the leather. I'm sure if I searched, I could have found a snowflake 3D stamp, but I didn't want this to just be, you know, something that just anybody else's snowflake bracelet might look like. Good save, set of drawers. Okay, so there's that one, and now we're going to do the next one, which has the large second. Okay, so final and hopefully most perfect snowflake. Okay. How's it going over there, honey?
Difficult.
Yeah. Speaking of which, if you guys enjoy video games, please go check out Randy on his channel.
Are you recording with both?
Uh-huh. He is on Randy Vaughn, is his channel name. I'll put him in the credits.
Is your new camera recording as well?
Mm-hmm. You're fine.
You sure?
I'm positive. He's also uber self-conscious because he doesn't have a shirt on. And now the whole world knows, Randy. That's what you get for being basically a nudist. It's like, y'all are lucky we put clothes on for these videos at all. Oh, hey Randy, do you want to see?
Oh, whoa.
You like it?
Yeah.
Ah, do you think he'll like it?
I think so.
Okay. Okay, so now, this border that we put on here, I'm going to come around and cut into it with my swivel knife. Okay, so there's that. I'd like to put some kind of texture here on the outside, but I'm gonna start by beveling. Ooh. Oh. Okay. Again, gonna test it before just cutting into the piece. So I want to test some borders. So I'm gonna cut some lines here into this piece of scrap leather, because that is what scrap leather is for. And I have a couple of different tools that I'd kind of like to use. I really like this one because of the shaping on it. It kind of makes it look a little bit, I don't know, like a, you know, like a snowflake maybe. So that could look really nice. Maybe. Ooh, Celtic knots. Yeah, why did I not even think of that? In which case, we can experiment with Celtic knot work. Then where there's the little dots, we could do little dots. That could look pretty cool, like around on this outside edging. But we could also do just this texture tool. And I think that is actually what we're going to go with. Thank you, scrap leather. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come through and put these tools away so they don't just jingle around the whole time. I have this textured beveler. You can see the angle and shape of the tip here. Kind of hear the noise it makes. That's that texturing on it. And I'm going to come through on the inside lip of this line and just start tooling into the leather. And as I hammer, I kind of just walk it along. And this gives a really nice kind of layered effect, I think. You know, I am going to kind of continue that line around. There we go. It just gives it a sense of completeness, or I guess I could do a rivet there too, make it match the other side. There we are. Now, whenever you're doing your tooling, you're going to want a nice sturdy work surface. I'm on a solid wood desk that was given to me by one of my good friends when I was, well, their dad, who is a good friend, while I was back in high school. Solid wooden sewing desk, with a nice thick granite slab with a little poly board underneath it that helps absorb more of the sound and vibrations. Yeah, the gentleman who gave me this desk was actually the first person I ever knew to like do leather, like leatherworking and stuff. And he makes some really beautiful things out of deer skin and vegetable tanned and all sorts of stuff. He also was one of the first people I got crafty with. He showed me how to wrap feathers. It was just a pretty cool feller. Him and his wife both. So I'm kind of just giving it a little bit of shape, breaking it up. That's called milling it a little bit. And now I'm going to go through and do the texturing there along the edges, because I really don't want to detract too much from these snowflakes. And so here on the belt, boop, boop, I'm just texturing away. Now, since this is going to be going to, you know, a Santa outfit, totally, I am doing a red stain with a black antique gel over it. And what I'm doing here is I actually just have this turned onto its side to give it kind of a very much of a fade in. Getting that nice little bit of texturing. I mean, it's a little bit more subtle, but sometimes that's what you're going for. Okay, so now I can put that tool up there. Put my hammer away, because until we get done staining, I think that's all we've got. Okay. What can I do with that? There it is. Now here I have a piece of freezer paper that has been much used. I'm actually just gonna open it up, dig out the antique. Let me take my bracelet off and put some gloves on. Now, here I have, no, I don't want to move that because so it's holding my camera in place. Let's see. I can't dig out my red. So here we have a really nice crimson. And a little paint palette. Let me actually stir this, shake it up a little bit more. You want to get those pigments really well distributed. It's got pearlettes in it. Okay, here we've got a clean brush. And I like using brushes on smaller pieces like this because I don't have to worry about wasting any of the stain in a sponge. And it helps me also make sure that the stain does get down into all the little nooks and crannies and things. Now, the stain that I'm using is a professional water stain by EcoFlow, and it's the crimson color. I have not diluted it or added anything else to it. And I like these because they're a little bit like waxier. Even though it is a water base, the pigments that are suspended in it kind of can have a waxy texture and tendency, and so it finishes really nicely, I've found. And I do want to stain this on the inside as well as the top side. Just because I find it gives it a really nice and finished look. And I do want to make sure that I get the edges very liberally. Make sure everything is nice and colored deeply. Okay, really getting, I want this surface totally impregnated with this pigment. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to set these aside to get washed. And so that's how that's looking. Nice and red all over. And now I have some paper towels. And I'm going to come through and just slightly burnish the surface here. And what this is doing is on the topmost parts of the leather, it's closing the pores just a little bit, as well as wiping off some of the excess dye. But the reason I'm doing this is I'm about to go through with an antique gel, and I want some of these spots here, you know, through here to still show through very, very red. So So we've got just a little bit left in this much used bottle of, you can't tell very well, but it's antique gel black from EcoFlow as well. Ooh, and this stuff comes out way runny compared to the other EcoFlows, like the other antique gels, sorry. So I'm going to wipe the excess off of my hand, try to get it off of my work surface because I don't want a whole lot of it on the back of this piece. And I'm almost immediately starting to wipe it off. So you can feel that through the glove, all cold and everything. I always forget just how runny it is. So squirting just some plain water onto a paper towel and rubbing it off. So this came out really dark. That's okay. It still bled through to the back. Okay. You win some, you lose some. So with that being the case, I am going to go through and kind of distribute black all over the back as well. Okay. Oh no, Krillin, why you murder people? So now I'm going to grab this back, shake up my crimson a little bit.
So I'm laying there down on the ground and he's like...
And then, now this is just a way of going about it. There are no right or wrong ways to stain your leather. Just experiment and find what works for you. What was happening with Krillin, honey? Okay. And I'm just doing this to kind of try to counterbalance a little bit of that dark black. And I think that really helps shine the red through a little bit more. Now it looks really black in the camera, but also keep in mind that as this dries, it'll brighten up some more as well. And I'm just going to keep kind of layering on some of the red stain. Almost scrubbing it in with the brush. And then wiping off the excess. And so I'm going to come through and actually spray our leather here to remove even more of that black stain. And I'm going to use this last bit of the red to give it a nice dark final finish. And a lot of whenever I'm staining something, it's just kind of me messing around. Like, I've been working on leather for quite a few years now, and I still have not found a way that it's like, oh, well, I'll just do it like this every single time. It's like, I try something different almost every single time. So what I'm going to do now, I got a little bit of red here left still. So I'm just going to kind of touch that in between. And just let it sit for a minute. Here I have some oil dye from Phoebings. Sorry, I just realized I'm like yelling into the camera. Where did that paintbrush go, Mom? I don't know. Well, I had a paintbrush I was using the other day, but now I can't find it. Oh, there it is, right in front of me. Okay, I just use the same paintbrush all the time with my oil-based dye. to come through. I'm going to get just a little on the tip. And I'm just going to brush real lightly and give this a nice finished edge. Being very careful to make sure it does not exceed past my cut line for the border. And I want to make sure I get the edge nice and dark. You can go ahead and rub this onto the end buckle here. Again, trying to make real sure that I don't get any of it here on the red. So I'm going to keep that nice and clean and separate. Until, of course, I do something like that and get a little bit over the edge, but it's art, it happens. Just making sure I got all my edges. Okay. There we are. Put the lids back on my stuff so I don't make any more messes. Set these aside so they can get washed. Well, I just put my oil dye brush back where it was. Okay, so now I'm going to come through and just wipe down the edging, because you see it does take some of that black off and I don't want that smeared onto the red. I'm feeling very pleased with that. Okay, so now let's find some rivets. So here I have some of the small and extra small rivets. Looks like I only need really one of each. And then I'm actually going to be using the large rivet caps, just because that's what I have. I want to take that back. I have a small and a medium rivet. Okay. Take the gloves off, save them for later. Okay, so now to set rivets, you'll just need this tool that's called a rivet setter, and it has a flat end and a concave end. And these are quick rivets, so they have one end that looks like this, and then the other end is the cap. And so I'm going to use this one, the small, just through the end here. Just push it right on through, wipe the dye off. I'm going to take my rivet and set it there, and then you'll just place the rivet setter right on top of the cap and just hammer it down just like that. And so now over here, and I prefer this style of buckle because I don't have to put a belt keeper on it because it does have this back side. Okay, so just threading through. It's a lot easier to work with now that it's softened up and cased. Okay. I'm actually, I don't know if you can see, but I'm doing this off the edge of my work surface. That way the buckle can kind of hang there. And I'm going to take my rivet, feed it through right there, and then feed it through. How did I even get, oh. Then I'm going to set my cap onto my rivet and position it, and I do need one more small and one more rivet cap. Okay, so I'm going to thread this through back. And there we are. Everything's all set. Sorry. There we go. And so now I'm actually going to take Aussie wax and just take a dab of it with my finger, and I'm going to start on the back side and start massaging this into the leather. I actually have, right here I have a piece of old blue jean that's been like cut up. And I'm just going to use that to kind of rub and burnish this leather conditioner into the surface. This seals the pores. It will help repel moisture. So if you can keep the moisture out of your leather, you're going to keep it from getting dry rot. Okay, so now that that's done, I'm going to flip it over and start rubbing it in on the other side. I don't know if you can see, but that gives it a really nice finish. And then we can come through, and I've got, sorry, just a little bit of beeswax here that I'm going to run along the edges of the bracelet. And then I have my edge slicker. The more I work on this bracelet, the more I'm thinking and just remembering more and more how generous he's been. Every time I've ever met him, you know, I went to one of his leatherworking panels. You know, he's just, whenever we were in Birmingham, Alabama, you know, he and a couple other talented leather workers were some of the first people that I ever learned from. You know, they answered all of my questions and never once treated me like I was silly or, you know, stupid for asking something that, you know, after asking it, I'm like, oh, well, if I just talked it out, I just answered my own question. But they were very patient with me. They were very nice, very informative. So I'm pretty excited about that. Now, the next step, and this is something I've just recently started doing with my leather, is a shoe polishing brush. And this helps especially on those inner grooves. But this is something definitely a little better left until after the leather has dried. It's for the final buff and shine. So I'm going to re-put on some of this Aussie wax. Just really let that soak in. Oh gosh, guys, that's beautiful. And I want to write him a little bit of a message here on the inside of his new bracelet. Just roll that up instead of the side. And I'm going to write, to give is the greatest gift. Thank you for being you! Exclamation point. Signed, Random 2017. I'll run my finger over that. Yeah, I think that will stay. So now I'm gonna let this dry and send him pictures and hope he likes it. So thank you guys so much for sticking around for this tutorial. I do hope that it was helpful to you and maybe you learned something. I know I learned a few things, mostly that I need to make like way more bracelets like this, but yeah, if you guys have any questions, comments, or ideas, also make sure you poke out the creepy looking Aussie wax from all the little holes that the belt buckle's gonna go through. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, comments, or ideas, I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoy our free tutorials and would like to support the creation of more of them, please check us out on Patreon. There's a link down in the video description below where you can go and pledge as little as $1 a month and be part of supporting more videos, a part of our art and fairy house giveaways, just all different kinds of stuff. It's really fun, and I really appreciate all of y'all's support. So thank you guys so much. Happy crafting. I'll see y'all around. Bye.